Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Well, hello and welcome back to yet another episode. Today we're going to be continuing that conversation we started in the last one. You'll see, for those of our audience who are actually seeing us, you'll see we're in the same clothes as last time. So this isn't a week later or 2 weeks later. This is just a continuation, a follow-on, right? We're just going in through to the next episode. Once again, we are back in the guest seat we thought it was going to be, but it turns out it's the hot seat, as Tolu has made us be clear, because we're going to be looking at how to fix relationships, part 2. Sharing our thoughts there, but sharing them from a well, I guess we're going to be talking about it, and we wanted to get somebody ask us those questions from the perspective of a genuine audience, putting somebody in your shoes, you the audience, and we have nobody better than our wonderful Director of Corporate Programs, Tolu Adebekun, who is going to be sharing some questions on your behalf or some thoughts from your perspective.
Yes, thinking about the things you'd like to ask us.
How do you do this in practical terms?
And while I think of it, one idea would be for the audience to, when they hear this episode, type in the comments any other questions
Would love
they'd like us to ask, because Tolu is a great show host, as you'll hear, or as you probably know from part 1. And if you tell us the questions you'd like to be asked, then Tolu will more than happily, I'm sure, be back to put us again in the hot seat to ask those questions.
We'd be happy to come back. If Tolu would come back, we'd love that as well.
Yeah,
we could certainly do another one. We can do more of these. Just keep asking us questions. We'll keep responding. Well, Andrew's certainly happy to talk forever, so that's all good.
Yes, I am.
But we should be quiet. We'll hand over to you, Tolu. How do you want to take us on this second leg of the journey?
So I think we started off with Ed, and I think it would be good to go back into that a little bit and then talk about, with each of the steps that we've got, what are some of the practical things that we can actually do in our day-to-day lives to start that journey of change.
Yeah, great starting point. And as you said, we started unpacking EPA. Quite often when we share the 4 habits with people, they say, get it. Be curious, not critical. Understood. Be careful, not crushing. Got it. Ask, don't assume. Yeah. Connect before you correct. All makes intellectual sense. But how do you actually create the behavior changes for the 4 habits to become your habit in that moment of interaction? Because our default habits are very different from what the 4 habits invite us to do. And so we've developed a very clear structured process called EDCAPA to help people become intentional about learning and then practicing really specific skills, tools, and techniques in the moment to help the 4 habits to become your own habit. And
if I may jump in just for 1 second there, I think it's important context here, especially for listeners who are joining us at this stage in the conversation. And if you are, please go back and listen to the previous episode, because that will help you get the context for why we're doing this. But actually, I think it's really important to recognize that for most of us, when there are challenges in relationships, whether it's work relationships or home relationships or whatever kind of relationship it is, could be on your mates on the sports field. For most of us, generally, we think the challenge lies on the other side. The problem is always with the other person. Mm-hmm. And actually, our experience is quite often they've done something that you don't like. Yes, we get that. But if their emotional bank account is already in a drained place, they're more likely to do that sort of thing. So actually, you as a person, maybe even very selfishly, what you can be doing to have a better relationship with that person is think about maybe some of the things that you did that might have drained the emotional bank account with them, but also equip yourself with the skills to, when they respond badly, how do you then manage yourself so that you don't respond to their response in a negative way? So there are actually things that you can be doing to take responsibility for your behavior, and that really is what this process will help you do. And the habits that we help you develop are about responding or turning up as a better person yourself, so that they have less to react to. There you go. Yeah. So if you can put your best foot forward, they don't react, and you don't end up in a negative spiral. But also when they do react badly, how do you then respond in a better way so that you don't end up in this negative spiral? So you're basically giving yourself the best chance of a successful relationship by taking responsibility for the way you show up and the way you react and respond.
Well, you've used two very important words there, and that's what the whole structured process, the 6-step process that we call EPA, is about, so that we react less and respond more. Instead of just reacting to what's thrown at us, we're choosing the behaviors and how we will respond. So EPA is both a name of the process and a reminder of the steps through the process. And as a name, EPA stands for Effectively Developing Cultural and Personal Accountability. Because what we're doing is we're helping people change behaviors and cultures. And the process is about becoming more accountable for how you turn up, for your own behaviors, and therefore the culture that you're creating around you, helping that to be more healthy and less toxic. So effectively developing cultural and personal accountability. And then as a process, each of those letters, EDCAPA, also stand for a reminder of each of the steps. So the E is about emotions. The first step is understanding emotions. And that's what John just shared. And that's what we spoke about in part 1. How do you become more intentional in managing your impact and your influence through learning how to manage this thing called the emotional bank account? So that's the E, understand emotions. The D is about difference, and we can unpack that in a moment. How do we learn to respect difference better? The C is conflict. So how do we manage conflict more intentionally? How do we prepare for it, knowing it's inevitable? How do we turn up better and deal with the conflict, the tension in conflict in a more productive way that strengthens rather than damages the relationship? The A is about assumptions. We all come with them. So how do we unpack the assumptions that we have and get to a better place of mutual respect and trust? The P is about priorities. How do we clarify priorities, things that are important to you, things that are important to me? How do we create healthy boundaries around the people and things that matter to us so we can have a more sustainable rhythm and balance to life? And the final A is about appreciation. How do we communicate appreciation on purpose? And in each of these 6 steps, we're sharing a different lens, a different model to look at what you're experiencing in relationships, to help understand each other more deeply, communicate more effectively, to get to that place where you really get where the other person's coming from and have a better conversation about things and get a better result. So it really is a process for taking personal responsibility ourselves, but for creating healthier, better quality relationships around us by changing our behaviors in each of those 6 areas.
And if I may jump in for just 1 second, I know, Tolu, I can see you bursting to come in with another question there. But just jumping in for just 1 second, I think it's really important to go back to even what you said about the higher level picture of what we're trying to do here, which is around effectively developing cultural and personal accountability. Because actually, people generally think of culture as such a big thing. It's the culture. It is what it is, right? There's nothing I can do about that. It's kind of there for me to just fit into. And actually, no. Culture is simply the way we do things around here.
Yeah.
And if the way we do things around here is not so good, then the things you want to be doing to help influence that and change that. And actually that comes down to your personal accountability, doing things to ensure that the environment is better. So especially if you're a leader of people, it really comes down to you, the leaders of the culture, carriers generally of the environment. So if you are doing things that are leaving people feeling not so good, not so great, then you want to be doing things slightly differently so that actually people are left feeling good. Because as I say, if people may go where they feel welcomed, but they'll only stick around where they feel valued. So it's really important that you leave people feeling good, feeling great, feeling valued. That's how you can influence the culture. And if you can develop the habits and do things that that get people to that place, then you're actually shifting the culture and getting things better for the people around you and starting to enjoy healthier and happier relationships.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because what we say to leaders and managers is, regardless of what's going on in the wider culture, or regardless of what's going on out there, you have the power to create your own
There
microculture
you go.
where people can thrive based on the things that how you choose to do things around here can create that more trusting relationships, a more psychologically safe environment, have more open, honest conversations. Even if that's not what is done in the rest of the organization, you can make that the done thing in the area that you have influence over.
And I think sometimes we don't even think about our home relationships as kind of mini organizations, like, because your relationship at home has a culture as well. And that's why I love that definition, because it's the culture needs to be good, and the culture we need to develop that, and we do that through personal accountability. Like, for me, that's just the perfect blend of both. So I have a bit of a challenge for you guys, which we didn't discuss, so we'll see how this goes.
All right, bring it on.
So we have got 6 steps in EdCamp. So what I would like to do is take 2, maybe 3 minutes for each one, and kind of go back and forth between the two of you. Maybe we'll start with Andrea, you take the E, John, you take the D, and just talk 2 to 3 minutes on how practically, we can actually start to do that, and what does that look like? Are you up for the challenge?
We're up for the challenge. We're in.
Yes, we can do that.
You've got no choice now. Andrea's already confirmed, so you've got no choice.
Well, I'll start with the E, because that's the easy one. And we spent a lot of time talking in part 1 about understanding emotions and the emotional bank account. So I'll just do that really high level. The emotional bank account is a mental record that we subconsciously keep of every interaction that we have with somebody. So everything we say and do will either land well or land badly in that person's emotional bank account. And there is no middle ground. As you said in the other episode, there's no neutral. It either lands well or lands badly. And the thing is, even if we intend something to land well, it's the other person's perception of what we did that matters, no matter what we intended. So you might say something that you meant to be a compliment, but based on past experiences, their own mindset, whatever's gone on in their life before, it could land as an insult and create a huge misunderstanding. But just knowing that this thing called the emotional bank account exists, and the fact that everything we do will either land well or land badly, empowers us to manage the moment. We can become more observant. We can notice how things are landing. If it lands well, note to self, let's do more of that because that lands well. If it lands badly, instead of leaving things to fester, we can address it in the moment. Our favorite 3 words: help me understand. Help me understand what I did that really offended you. Help me understand what I need to do or say differently. It just helps you manage relationships more intentionally by managing the moment, noticing how things land. So very powerful, loads that we can unpack there. But understanding emotions is about understanding your personal impact and the influence you have to create a healthier relationship. That's the E.
And it really is the beginning of the journey, because you need to have that understanding. And then once you have that understanding, then you can say, okay, well, how do I go to work to maintain that balance or to manage it so it stays in positive territory? But it really is the beginning of the journey. Begin with the end in mind. Why am I doing this? It's because I want to manage the emotional bank account.
One thing I wanted to add to what you said, Andrea, is that even if it goes well, you can still ask to understand why it goes well. Because if you just know it went well, but you don't know why, you don't understand how to do more things like that. So I think whether it goes well or whether it goes badly, I think that understanding is really, really important to help you to know what to do in the future. So good on the E, and that was under 3 minutes.
I want to camp out there one more time, because what you said is so powerful with the emotional bank account, but with relationships in general. So a lot of times we'll talk with people and, we say we help people create stronger relationships, healthier behaviors and cultures. And they'll say, our relationship's great, our relationship's good. But quite often relationships are good and you don't know what you're doing to make it good, which means when things start to become a challenge or start to go belly up, you don't know what to do to fix it. And so the whole point of learning to do relationships well and being intentional about your behaviors is knowing the levers to pull, the things to do, the habits to create, to really, if it's good, keep it good. And if it's not so good, or if it gets into a patch where things are rocky, knowing how to fix it. But bullseye on that comment.
And just very quickly there to share, at the end of the last episode, we mentioned that we have these resources to help people go deeper. But just very quickly to give you an example, in the module 1, session 1 of the 6-step process, one of the things in very practical terms that we help people do is start to develop a list of what. So think about yourself. What actually makes a withdrawal for you, and what makes a deposit for you? What are the things that when people do them to you, they don't land so well with you? And what are the things that actually, when people do that for me, they're great. I really like that. And if you're in a couple relationship, or if you're in a relationship where there is sufficient openness to be able to share that with the other person, if both of you go through this exercise and you actually write down some of the things that are withdrawals and deposits, and they do the same, and you have the opportunity to share that, then you can start to build understanding of actually, you know what, this really doesn't work for them, and this really does work for them. Maybe you have a conversation about it, but actually use that as your learning opportunity to then say, okay, I need to stop doing that. I don't know why I've been doing that, or maybe I do know why I've been doing that, but actually if it isn't landing well and it is making withdrawals, let me stop doing that. And these are the things that they prefer. Let me start doing some of those things on purpose. These are some really practical things that you can be doing to start managing that emotional bank account. There's more stuff that we talk about in the courses, but just to give you something practical there you go. There's one example.
Yeah,
perfect. Right, let's go on to D. 2 minutes, please. We've got a little timer.
All right, well, we'll manage this one tight. All right, well, I'll take that one. If you do it, we'll be 5 minutes. Anyway, no. But just
is that a withdrawal for me? Go now.
No, I'm sure it is. I'm so sorry about it. I'm so sorry. No, but I wanted on D. I just wanted to very quickly say. So D is about respecting differences. Well, it's about understanding differences and then getting to the point where you can respect them. And actually, for a lot of us, most of us, we can only see the world through our lens, and we think everybody sees the world the way we do. But actually, people are different. And the journey that you need to go on in step 2, and the journey that we take people on, is to help understand differences, all differences, whether it's and quite often we have to look at stereotypical differences to make a point, but we'll look at gender differences, and actually gender differences can be like a hot potato for some people, because they think, oh, well, not everybody's like that, and we accept that. But actually, the reality is probably 80% of people do line up with a certain stereotype. There are of course, going to be that 20% who don't, but to make the point, you need to understand the differences, and the gender differences. There are
thinking
style differences. There are personality differences. There are
cultural differences, but we cover that in another step.
There are so many differences, and actually, when people turn up different to us, most of us can't understand why they do that. We don't respect it, and we end up being critical about their differences because, our way is the right way and their way is the wrong way. So we're critical. Why? What do you do that for? Is generally how most of us turn up.
Or why did you do that to me?
Yeah.
We think everything is, we're so at the center of the world.
Yeah.
So step 2 really is about, step 2 is essentially habit 1. So this is where the 2 line up. So the emotional bank account really sits at the beginning. Then you have these 4 habits in the middle. So from steps 2 to 5 or 6, all the way to 6.
Steps 2 to 6.
And then in the courses and programs that we do, we give people a personal action plan at the back end to take responsibility for things. But actually, if you think of it, the D is really about habit 1. And what it's saying there is, in the face of difference, what you want to do is stop being critical, because critical equals withdrawal. If I tell you, what was that about? That wasn't very good. You're not going to like that. And actually, get curious. The words Andrea used earlier help me understand why you did that. Just very quickly to share for us, the big understanding about differences was, I came to realize, and we were really privileged to do some work with the De Beers group. And just very quickly, the De Beers, some of our listeners will know, are in the diamond business. And I realized through the exercise and the work that we did, I was a diamond polisher and Andrea is a diamond miner. so she's great at coming out of the mine with some fantastic diamonds. They could do with a little bit of polishing, I'd say, to say the least. They're good. They're good diamonds, but they're not cut the best. They're not shining, and they're not brilliant. But there's a solid thing there. And I had got to get to the point of recognizing that I'm great at polishing, but I'm not so good at finding the diamonds. And recognizing that was what allowed me to then respect her, because I would just get critical when she'd show me these diamonds that weren't fully finished being polished.
They're not gleaming enough.
I'd be critical, like, why haven't you finished the job? And so that was my response. Instead of saying, actually, fantastic diamond, let me help you finish that, I'd say, why haven't you finished the job? And that didn't work so well. So it's just getting to that point of recognizing we have different strengths and then respecting her strengths is really where we all need to get to. And it's something that we need to continue doing ourselves. So I don't say this to say we're the finished product, but that's the journey that everybody needs to go on.
One of the models that we use there is understanding personality differences. And what you'll find with all the models we use is that they're easy to carry in the head, so you can remember it in the moment of interaction. There are lots of more complex and, data, not just database, because they're all database, but they're more complex models we could have shared, but we deliberately choose the simple ones so you can remember in the moment of interaction how to apply it. So that's true for the D, but it's true for all the steps as well.
Awesome. The C? We're not doing
So
very well
I'll
on the
take
2
the
minutes.
C. Let's see if I can do it
We're
shorter.
not doing well on the 2 minutes.
2 minutes, let's start now. Go.
This is the challenge.
The C is about managing conflict. And the point is, we all have these default tendencies in how we do conflict. We might, there are 4 key ways. We might either want to win and dominate the conversation. We might want to negotiate and give as little as we have to get as much as we can. We might choose to just give in and yield because this is too overwhelming and the best way to deal with it is to give in. Or we might choose to get away. It is so uncomfortable, this whole tension and conflict, that you just need to get away to be able to think straight and even process things to come back and have a conversation. So we all have one of those 4 tendencies. And the thing is, none of them is effective. None of them leads us to resolving the issue because they're all me-centered. We're at the center of our world, and I'm going to do the thing that makes me feel most comfortable or most in control of what happens next. If we want to get to really resolving conflict, and the thing to remember is that conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. The minute you have 2 living, breathing, thinking people, opinionated people in the same room, you're going to have a difference of opinion. And actually, that's great because it means you're individuals. You're not carbon copies.
You stick a bit of ego in the mix as well. Now you got it on steroids.
Exactly. So we really need to get better at doing conflict well. And the approach that we talk about under the step that covers C, managing conflict, is how do we reprogram our brains so that we don't default to our self-preservation style, but we choose better habits, better skills, better behaviors in the moment, so we can treat each other well instead of trying to crush or dominate or escape or doing things that damage the relationship. We treat each other with more care, and we work towards an us-centered, a we-centered approach to resolving the conflict so that the relationship wins, we win together, and it's not you against me. So that's it in a nutshell.
and that essentially is habit 2.
And that's habit 2, be careful, not crushing. And that's how we unpack that with models to change the way you behave in the moment, how you prepare. We actually talk about preparing for it, what to do to prepare, what to do during, and what to do after, because conflict itself isn't the problem. It's how we behave during conflict and how we recover the relationship, the warmth in the relationship after conflict. So that's what we talk about.
Exactly. Just even going back to what we said about the emotional bank account, how you respond in a conflict situation can absolutely either bring the conflict to a nice, happy landing, or you can take it into a very bad place. So taking responsibility for how you show up in conflict is a really important thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then the next A?
The first of the A's. So unpacking assumptions is really what it comes down to. So this is the beginning of habit number 3, which is ask, don't assume. But it really comes down to this mindset that a lot of us have, that because something is important to me, it must be important to the people around me as well. If it's important to me, it must be important to you. Yeah? It's kind of obvious, like, duh, this is so important. But actually, that's not reality. Things that are important to me may or may not be as important to you, and things that are important to you may or may not be as important to me. We had a really interesting conversation with a lawyer recently. It was a divorce lawyer, family lawyer, and they were talking about some clients of theirs in the past who had been going through separation, and one of the things that the one party wanted to do one of the parties as part of the settlement terms, they wanted to bring their olive oil with them, and the other party was like, what's that about?
Well, the one lawyer was saying, why is that important?
Why is that important?
Why is that on your
list? Come on, surely that's a negotiable, Whereas, and then actually what was explained to us is they actually had Greek Cypriot heritage, where they come from a background of orchards and olive oil, and it's sort of like a family gift, where now the parent, I think, had this farm, and the olive oil would be produced from the farm every year, and they would each member of the family would get some of it. And so this and the taste of this thing was quite different. This is not your local Tesco's or Sainsbury's or Waitrose olive oil. This is it has a different flavor.
Exquisite, yeah.
And they only cook with this stuff. So for this person now to be, as part of the separation, they're like, you know what, I need my olive oil. This is part of my family heritage.
My year's supply of olive oil.
So whereas the assumption from the other side is, look, this is a negotiable stuff. It's just olive oil. Forget about it. Just pick some up at the supermarket. They're like, no. This is part of me and who I am. This is really important. And so for some, so it's just getting to that level of understanding that because something may not be important to you doesn't mean it's not important to the other side. And so habit number 3 and step, where are we up to now? Step 4 in the process here.
Yeah, step 4 and 5 are about
and 4 or 5
habit 3.
Habit 3. But the first part here, step 4, is about getting to the point of recognizing that actually challenging those assumptions, unpacking those assumptions, and saying, actually, what's really important to you, what's really important to me, and then, okay, now let's have a conversation about it. Because if we don't have that conversation, I'm going to make some wrong decisions, some wrong conclusions, and we could get ourselves in a bit of a pickle here, a bit of a conflict situation. So it's just taking that time to unpack those assumptions and chill and relax and understand that because it's important to you or them, and vice versa. Is it important to them? Is it important to you? Just have some conversations there to clarify what's really important.
Yeah, it's about differences that go really deep.
Yeah.
We carry these core values and beliefs that sometimes we don't even hold until they're challenged. And then we come out fighting because our self-esteem is challenged. It's not just the thing, it's what the thing means to us.
Yeah.
So getting better at unpacking these assumptions, talking about them, having those courageous conversations about things that matter rather than sweeping it under the carpet. That's what this is about. And that's how you build deeper levels of trust and much more respect for each other, by talking about the core values and the assumptions. Because from that place of assumptions, we put expectations on how the other person should behave without them realizing why. But being able to talk about it helps you build trust in a more real way.
And
as
you mentioned,
P.
Yeah, 4 and 5 I meant a link. So let's go into P.
Yeah, so P. So the habit 4, step 4 is about unpacking the assumptions. Step 5 is about clarifying the priorities. Once you understand what's really important to you, who and what are important to you, how do you recognize those as priorities and then put healthy boundaries around them and make space in your schedule to pay attention to the people and things that matter to you. So life feels more balanced and you don't have that grating on the inside where the life you're living on the outside is contradicting the things that are important to you and the priorities that you have. So clarifying priorities is who and what do I need to make space for, to give attention to in my life, so that I feel balanced. I feel like I'm paying attention to the things that really matter, so that they go together.
Yeah,
it's just such a big topic that they need 2 different steps.
Assumptions and priorities. It's quite different, but they go so well. Yeah.
But you got to start by figuring out what actually matters most to you and why, and so because that's what actually drives the assumptions that you make. So figure out what matters most to you, put some boundaries around it, and then think about and challenge your own assumptions, and actually recognize that people will be making different assumptions out there. And again, it's about being open to understanding what their assumptions are. And again, in the program that we have in the different online courses, what we do is help people in very practical ways understand what's important to them. Just sort of ask questions of yourself that make you think, actually, you know what? Yeah, that is really important to me. Or actually, you know what? I thought that was important, but actually, when it comes down to it, there are other things that are more important, bigger fish to fry, or whatever, however you want to
I give you a
think
really
of it.
I give you a really simple example. So when you have a full-time job, the assumption is you have no control over your time. You're at the mercy of the job that needs to be get done. It bleeds into your home life because the deadline needs to be met and so on. And one of the assumptions I carried was I'm an evening person, I'm a night person, and I just need to react to whatever needs to be done during the day and stay up all night to get it done. I've learned that what I can get done at night is good. What I can get done first thing in the morning when I'm fresh is exceptional. So challenging that thinking that I'm a night person meant that I could get up early and pay attention to the things that mattered to me before I had to do the day job. So I could spend time, a quiet time, feeding my faith, just having that mental reset through my devotions in the morning. I could get exercise in. I could read because I never have time to read, and I could get all that done before the rest of the world woke up and started pinging with emails and text messages and so on. So that's an assumption that you can challenge to create better space for the things that are real priorities to you, as one example.
That's really good. That's really good. And then the last A?
Last A is something we spoke about a bit at the was it the beginning of this one or the last podcast? I forget where we are now.
Anyway,
but it really is around communicating appreciation.
Yeah.
Because the point I made earlier is that people, they absolutely go where they feel welcomed. We all go where we feel welcomed, but we only stick around where we feel valued. And if we don't appreciate people and we don't show that appreciation to people in a way that they can process it and interpret it and understand it, then we leave them feeling unvalued. And when we leave people feeling unvalued, we actually leave them vulnerable to other people making them feel more valued.
Yeah.
And when they feel that, they don't go out looking for it, but they end up gravitating towards whoever it is that's making them feel valued. So actually, if we don't make people feel valued, we leave them with a vacuum that is looking to be filled, and it will be filled by somebody else out there. So we've left them vulnerable. So we need to take responsibility for that and say, oh my Lord, what can I do to make this person feel more valued? And that really is what the P here is about: communicating appreciation.
The last A.
The last A is about communicating appreciation in a way to them that they can actually hear it. And one of the things that a model that we use there, and we go deeper in it in the program. There are a couple of things that we share, a number of things. Listening is also a very important part of this, but actually speaking the other person's appreciation language, or using Gary Chapman's language of talking about the love languages. These are the different ways in which people feel valued and appreciated and special and loved. The danger that we all have is that we all speak our own language. We speak our mother tongue. And actually what we need to learn to do is forget what our mother tongue is in this context and actually learn the other person's mother tongue and speak to them. Because we all know, I think, in practical terms, if you go to a country that you don't speak their language, it could be Russia, it could be Malaysia, anywhere in the world where you don't speak their language, and you go in there just speaking your language and expecting the people are going to understand you and they're going to feel really special by what you're communicating, well, that's not reality.
Yeah.
You've got to learn their language and speak their language and then say the things that they want to hear in their language. Now you're having communication, and that's really what this step is about. The final communicating appreciation. It's about understanding other people's appreciation or love language, and then learning to speak that in practical ways, listening to what they're saying, picking up on the cues, and actually then speaking their language in practical ways.
Yeah, and this is habit 4. Sorry, Tolu.
So you guys talk about, don't treat people how you want to be treated, treat people how they want to be treated. And that's really what this is about, is understanding how people want to be treated and treating them in the way that makes them feel appreciated.
Absolutely. And this is habit 4 territory: connect before you correct. Because as a people, we are so much better and far more consistent in correcting people, telling them the things they need to get better at, telling them the things they need to change. and not consistent, if we do it at all, in telling them what's great about them, why you value them, what you've appreciated about what they've done. And it's the appreciation that we all need to hear, because there's so much in the world and in social media telling us how rubbish we are. We just need the people who matter to us to get better and more consistent at communicating value and appreciation in a way that lands most powerfully with us and makes us feel seen, loved, and known. That's a great note to end it on, isn't it?
Well, those are the 6 steps. Well, I don't know if our host wants to end it there, though.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is complete, and you guys have passed the challenge by the skin of your teeth. You've passed the challenge. No, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was really useful. Thank you guys so much for sharing.
So there you go. That's it, Capo.
Those are the 6 steps. And as we said earlier, if people do want to go deeper, there is so much more to unpack. It's I think it's 10 hours of total content that we have in the programs.
Lots of bite-sized short
lots
videos.
Of bite-sized short
and
videos.
Then a lot of reflection.
And lots of time for reflection. If you want to do the whole thing and actually go through all the full exercises, there's some people out there who are wired like that. Not everybody will do that. We get that. But if you wanted to go through the full thing, it's that kind of length of program. But it is taking you deep. And indeed, maybe it is just one particular area of your relationship, one of the steps or one of the skills that you think, actually, you know what, I need to get better at that. We have lots of exercises in there lots of teaching, but also lots of exercises that will help you just go deeper. So again, learn.the4habits.com. We'll put the link in the show notes if that's what you want to do. But we would encourage you to do something to be on purpose about developing those skills that allow you to turn up better, to stop making withdrawals and actually start making deposits in emotional bank accounts. Incidentally, we should have pointed out that actually that's what the 4 habits do. Habits 1 and 2 help you minimize the number of withdrawals that you're making, and habits 3 and 4 help you maximize and make deposits on purpose. And you need to do both of those to be able to manage the emotional bank account. Stop making those withdrawals and start making deposits. So go through the 4 habits is our recommendation. Learn them, develop them, start practicing them, put them into practice in your relationships, all relationships, at work, at home, in life. And that is actually how you start managing emotional bank accounts and enjoying the journey. And, you can turn up better and actually enjoy the relationship that you're having in all those different circumstances.
Yeah, on purpose about doing it well.
So it's been great having you. Thank you. Thank you, Tolu, for being such a kind and generous host for us here. You didn't ask us to. It was a hot seat, but you were kind to us. So we're
we were able
for
to answer, so that's good.
I tried.
Hopefully rose to those challenges. And thank you to our audience for tuning in again with us here today. And hey, look out for the next episode. We'll see what we have for you. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The4Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.